Folks, welcome into a brand new episode of Bullet Points. It is week 6. The Bulls dropped their MAC opener and homecoming game by a touchdown, but they have a huge game here to bounce back against a MAC East rival in Kent State. I am your host, Ty B, joined by Kevin Massari and Mike Bunt. Today's episode is brought to you by Hartman's Distilling Company, one of the best places in the city to go and grab some drinks over there on Ohio Street. Plus, you can grab their Loganberry vodka and their vodka seltzers at Outlet Liquor or any other local liquor stores. So make sure you're on the eye for those, especially for those tailgates tomorrow and Sunday. We got some big games coming up, Kev.
Yeah, we do. We sure do. Hey, if you're a fan of the MAC, there's some good things to look forward to here. I think got a little clear last week with some stuff. I think it's going to be a little bit even more clear this week with a few things that there are some unknowns. Like I'm interested in like Miami EMU. How's that going to turn out? You've got an Ohio CMU, which, Ohio could find themselves 2-0 and then lose a bunch of games in a row there. Bowling Green might get off the schneid with an Akron win here. They're a team to watch out for. And, WMU is might be the team to beat if they can take care of UB, Ball State, and then Kent next week. They're probably the favorites of this thing. So lots of good MAC play coming up. Nothing like that you need to see this week in the MAC, but things that might make it a little bit more clear. And then you have obviously the UB Kent game, which might be the premiere, maybe why, it's in that primetime slot. But out of the MAC slate, there is some things that might become a little bit less murky as the Saturday ends.
Absolutely, Kev. And Mike, you're one of the more optimistic ones out of all of us. It wasn't the best performance last week there at homecoming, but before we get into the nitty gritty, just give me one reason to have some optimism for the fans tuning in right now.
The number one reason is the rest of the MAC East stinks. So I'm not even going to give you a UB reason because they haven't really given me any reason recently to be super optimistic. But the MAC East is horrible. It's probably the worst division in all major D1 football in the FCS, FBS meaning, pardon me. And then if you want one other reason for UB, they have a good defense. Defense has played well. They've had a strong start. Hopefully they can keep it going.
Yep, absolutely. The defense was very solid in that homecoming loss, but it was just a little bit too much out of their hands there as the offense couldn't really keep things going. They were able to get a lead there coming out of the second half break with a field goal to take the lead, and then things sort of fell off. No wheels on the car of the offense, if you will, because 4 straight 3-and-outs, absolutely stalling all over the field. Kev couldn't get anything going. And when you're in the crunch time in a game like that, where it's a 1-possession game, and you just absolutely fall flat on your face offensively after having a good drive coming out of half, I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's confusing. I mean, the way that they've played on offense is very confusing. I mean, by all accounts, we've heard they're a run-first team, and they don't quite have the scheme for it based on what we've been being told. To me, it's like they need to be a little bit more aggressive. There's nothing to lose. I mean, the defense seems to play really well for 3 quarters in every game. I mean, they've struggled in the fourth quarter straight up, and it has to do with the 3-and-outs on the offense. The defense has struggled. They've been on the field too much. We all know their weakness at DB. It's still a weakness. I'm sorry. It's still a major weakness of the team. If a team doesn't have a good passing game, UB should have some success against them. But we've seen it start to click toward late in games, and 17 more points from WMU is just another reason to put it into the pie. They've struggled in the fourth quarter. They've struggled mightily. The offense gets figured out. Teams are like, even if they have some okay weapons, we're still going to stack the box and stop the run. And once that happens, we're going 3-and-outs. So we started to see that. It's a monumental 8 3-and-outs in the last 2 weeks. It's not acceptable on any level. You need to make a change somewhere. And obviously the most talked about positions quarterback. It's not like you're going to go and bench your right guard. Unfortunately, you're talking about quarterback. That's the position that needs to get it done. That's the position that needs to bring dual threat versatility. And if it can't, they better have a good throwing game. And, quite frankly, it isn't right now. So that's the position you make the move at. You're not going to make it at Keon. You're not going to make it at the receiver position. And you're not going to make it right now. You could look at running back a little bit, but they are rotating them in. Unfortunately, it comes back down to the quarterback, the general, the leader of everything that has to do with the offense. It needs to be edited. Unfortunately, that comes down to the starting quarterback Kyle Van Treese, and that's the move you need to make. It's nothing personal. It's just when you watch football and the team's not successful on offense, you need to make a change.
Absolutely. And you kind of bring up a good point there. It's not like you go out and you're going to take your fourth wide receiver out and put your eighth wide receiver in and expect different results. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to switch a right tackle and start running for 300 yards a game instead of 220. That's just not going to happen. Their identity is not what it was last year. They're not as efficient running the ball. They're not going to just take the time off the clock and give their defense time to rest up in important games. You saw last year there were times where they didn't lead necessarily time in possession, and that's more because they were just blowing teams out and running all over them and just getting first down after first down. But that's not happening this year. They aren't that efficient team on the ground, so you have to try and do more. And we saw it in little spurts. That first drive coming out of half, they were pretty much the first, I think, 8 plays were split between passes and runs, and they were moving the ball well. And then it was like 6 straight runs, and they stalled out and had to settle for a field goal. Mike, they have to be better at diversifying things offensively and getting the ball into the playmaker's hands in space, not just handing it to him and say, here, go up the middle.
Yeah, this offense needs balance in the biggest way. How many screens have we seen this year? Not many with success. How many players outside of Keon Williams are we seeing as an actual threat in the passing game? He's been fantastic. 2 straight 100-yard receiving games. And if he gets another one this week, will become the first Bull since Anthony Johnson to have 100-yard receiving games in 3 straight weeks. But there's no other targets. There's no tight ends making plays. There's nobody else, maybe a Dominic Johnson catch here or there. But there's nobody that's really scary in the passing game. And what you have to ask is that just a product of the offense? Or is there a way to open things up? Because they're not running the ball the way they did last year. And a lot of that is scheme. And a lot of that is they have a brand new offensive line that's just not as talented as the players that they had last year. So that's where the whole Van Treese-Myers question gets brought up. Like you said earlier, Kev, it's nothing personal. But Van Treese, we've all described him as a game manager. And when the running game is effective and it's dominating, you're fine with him because he keeps the ball safe. He doesn't turn it over, and you can be efficient and win games. The problem is right now the running game stinks, and he can't make up for it because he doesn't have the skill set to really make things more explosive. I don't think anybody is saying that Matt Myers right now is way better than Van Treese. We don't even know. Myers could be worse than Van Treese for all we know. But it's the possibility of what he brings to the table. He's more athletic. I think he has a better arm. And you could maybe try some things out that could open things up for the offense. Some RPOs, mix things up. Will it be better? We'll have to wait and see. But one thing for sure, I knew it wasn't going to be this week because this is basically a homecoming for Van Treese. He grew up in Stowe, Ohio, which is 5 miles away from the Kent State campus. So if there was any doubt when this change was going to happen, it was never going to be for this game. If anything, it'll be going into next week if they have another tough offensive performance.
Yeah, hopefully Mr. Van Treese will be in attendance and not on Twitter tweeting at Rob Ryan. We'll see how that goes, though. But yeah, you brought up a very good point, sort of about this potential change here. And it's one where Matt Myers has been already used this year in these RPO style spots and where you're in a more run potential, and they've had him throw out of it. So they obviously see something in what he's doing or what Van Treese isn't doing. And they're trying to figure out a way to exploit that and use that in a positive way in their offense. So, I mean, I don't know what their offensive identity is going to be going forward because installing the offense late after spring practices and everything, I think that's why so much stuff has been held over from the previous regime. We don't know how much stuff's going to change. Like they could go into a full spread scheme over the next few years. Like that could be what they're going for, but we don't know that yet. And they don't necessarily have the quarterback to do that and all the other pieces. We've seen that happen with a lot of these MAC teams when they get into these transitional periods, even after good coaches move on. When you try to bring in new things and you don't have the right guys to do it right away, it causes a lot of issues when you're putting square pegs into circular holes.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at their offense, right? So they're running the ball. They have 3 guys that rank in the top 13 in the MAC in rushing. You have Marks at 288, McDuffie at 262, and Ron Cook at 250. Now, what's there to be noted? Unfortunately, Marks has done it in a whopping 78 carries, good for 3.7 yards per carry. One of the worst in the MAC by far. There's only a couple of guys down there. It's Akron's awful offense and DJ Irons, and not a lot else. He is one of the worst average yards per clip guy there. It needs to be talked about. Like, it needs to be discussed on that level of how inefficient he's being. You know, if we're not going to be fair to the if we're going to be fair to the quarterback, I need to be fair there. Hasn't been very good at times. He's getting too many carries at that yards per clip.
If McDuffie had the same amount of carries as him, he'd have over 120 more rushing yards than Kevin Marks.
Yeah, 28 less carries, yard and a half more per carry. And I mean, yeah, the numbers are there. It's been a brutal stretch there for Marks at times. Yeah, I mean,
and guys, we've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. McDuffie has been the best running back on the team. Cook might have the most yards per carry. He's the most explosive running back on the team. He's had a couple runs that really inflate his yard per carry numbers. If you go consistent every time you get the ball, who do you expect to get 4 to 5 yards every time? It's McDuffie. One thing to continue on what Ty, you were saying earlier, they're obviously putting Myers in the game in certain situations because they trust him and they think he has something he can give to the offense that Van Treese can't. Yeah. And when you watch practice, they do the same thing. A lot of those plays, the one where I don't know terminology, I'm sorry, but where you snap it out of shotgun, you fake the ops, and then you go head back in the pocket, go try to throw over the top. He threw an incompletion on it, I think, against Coastal Carolina. I see that in practice all the time, and it's effective. Yeah. And what that tells me is
the RPO. They
don't just go to him because they think, oh, it's a nice gadget play. They think he's the better red zone player. They know that when they're in the red zone and their running game is getting stopped, and they don't trust Van Treese to be able to force those throws in tight windows, they want a guy that can open things up and make defenders a little bit slower. So what that tells me is they believe deep down that Myers is the more explosive guy. They just need to trust that he won't make mistakes and that he can carry over from practice into the games. I think it's only a matter of time. And to be honest with you, I think they named Van Treese the starter before the season because it was out of respect. He's had a great career. He's been a good game manager for 2.5 seasons. But right now, you're a liability to this team by continuing the path. And the one last point I want to agree with Ty, you said that you'd give the Bulls offense a pass this year because they didn't have enough time really in the offseason to get together. I'm completely with you on that too. I don't think we're truly seeing the offense that we will see down the line. But at some point,
you just don't want to see regression. As long as you see guys getting better throughout the year, it makes sense. But when you look at this roster and you look at the guys who are holdovers from last year to this year, who has actually gotten better? I would say Dylan McDuffie.
Ron Cook, but that could just be more opportunity.
Yeah. Just because Jarrett's gone, and but besides
their other best players at transfer. So
Keon Williams, wasn't here last year. So what does that what does that mean? And he's a grad transfer. He's not going to be here next year. So you have to continue to develop other guys. So I don't know what they're really doing here. We've seen some of these other names getting mixed in a little bit at the receiver position, but it seems like they're getting one player. I think there was like one end around. They finally ran one and had a little bit of success with it. I think it was a 9-10 yard gain, something like that.
Shane Montgomery's got a ways to go, guys. Like, I mean, we can give him a pass. I'm fine with that. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we've given our basketball coach many years here. I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the pass going to the offensive coordinator. No issues on my front. But Shane Montgomery's got a long way to go to realize to play to his players' strengths and not off of an offense that the team was running last year with an NFL running back. They've got some work to do. They've got a ways to go. And they got to realize that there's not really that huge of a risk to change a couple of things up. Like, what's the risk? You lose another game? Okay. Like, you lose. Yeah. What game? What game were you going to win that you lost? I don't know. They already struggled with ODU down the stretch. They lost WMU anyways. We'll get into our Kent predictions here shortly. what game were you going to lose? I don't know. Maybe there is one that they would lose that they wouldn't have if they changed some things offensively. But I need to see that growth from Shane Montgomery. I had a lot of hope from him coming out of James Madison as the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. But quite frankly, I haven't quite seen that growth from him right now. Basically since being a pretty poor head coach in the MAC underneath for Miami. So
yeah,
there's
besides Roethlisberger, he was kind of
Yeah, I mean, there's some work to do on the offensive side of the ball here. He's got some interesting development to have to prove to me. Anyways, but enough about that. We'll hopefully see some growth. I think you need to turn your attention to Dustin Crum and the quarterback of the Kent State Golden Flashes. His biggest strength is one of UB's biggest weaknesses. Against non-running quarterbacks, UB has struggled mightily against guys that didn't run. This week is going to be even more trouble if they think they're going to play some man coverage, and they're going to be in trouble if they think they're going to go one-on-one with some good receivers. Dustin Crum has ran. Do you guys know how many yards he's ran for in his career? 1,500 plus yards in his career. It's going to be a huge struggle. He ran for 700 yards the last full season in 2019. It's going to be trouble. It is going to be an issue. They don't have Jarrett Patterson in the offensive line to bail him out and basically take him out of the game. It's going to be a big challenge. And they struggle at one of the biggest things they're strong at. What does that then do? If you start spying and containing him, he's going to find open routes. If you start going to zone coverage, his receivers are going to get open. There's going to be some issues stopping that Kent State offense against a pretty decent UB defense. And then that's not even to mention, can the offense even get going, back to our previous debate? So there's a lot to watch in this game. And one is the quarterback, Dustin Crum, who right now his numbers don't throw you off, but they've played some really good football teams so far in college football. This is really where it begins for him. And we don't want this to be his final season senior coming out party. He's played like 10 years in this conference. I don't know how many he has left. I think he's done here this season. I don't know with this eligibility now. But Dustin Crum's a guy, probably one of the best players in the MAC. WMU's quarterbacks, I still rank him number one. I think he played a pretty good game for as good as UB played for a while. Still was the difference maker in the fourth quarter there. He's probably the number one quarterback, has some NFL potential, but Dustin Crum's right there as number two to me. And I don't think UB is going to be able to contain him both in the running game, which he has good running backs, him on his own legs, and then finding the wide receiver weapons that we know UB struggles with the DB spot. Guys, it's going to be a challenge to struggle or to compete against Dustin Crum and his legs.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And the thing that I'm most worried about is you had at the end of that game last week, Gaddafi Wright took that 15-yard penalty. He was benched after that. No depth chart this week from the game notes officially from the team. So I don't even know if he's going to be back out there starting or not. That'd be a huge hit for them. He's a guy who gets sideline to sideline for them. And if you're going to have to contain Dustin Crum, you're going to need a guy like Gaddafi Wright, because you need a big linebacker to take him down. Dustin Crum isn't necessarily the fastest guy. He's not the shiftiest guy, but he's going to be able to read your defense, and he's going to make the right call, whether to hand it off or to keep it. And it might just be you, a defensive end or an outside linebacker, and the quarterback. You have to make that play at the line of scrimmage, not miss that, and then let him get that 5-6 yard gain over and over again. His averages rushing on the season are obviously lower because he's taking a bunch of sacks and whatnot on top of it. But if you take that out, he's still around a 4 or 5 yard per run. That's still pretty good. That's very efficient. And when you're looking at this defense, yes, that defensive line at times has really gotten after things. They can get after the quarterback, but do they have enough depth here to really shut down a big running game all day long? It's almost like flip-flop from last year where UB was a team ready to run it down Kent State's throat. Kent State might be ready to run it down UB's throat, Mike.
Yeah, we'll see. The one thing, Crum is definitely a talented quarterback, and he's been fantastic the last 2 years. But we do have to say he has been struggling this year. Now, a lot of that is the competition that Kent State has faced. You can't expect him to do well against Iowa, Texas A&M, and Maryland when Kent State is just outmatched talent-wise. But it's not like Crum is lighting things up this year. He's gotten it done on the ground with his 211 yards, but he's only averaging, I believe, around 3.8 yards per carry, which you'd expect that number to be.
Actors and sacks, Mike. That's what I was just saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
fair.
16 sacks. Yeah, he's been one of the most sacked guys in the conference.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. But even his passing yards per game is actually pretty
Not good.
mediocre.
One of the last in the
to be
MAC.
honest. I believe it's 896 yards through 5 games. He has only 3 touchdowns in the air to 2 on the ground. Now, the one thing he's always been effective with is he takes care of the ball. The last 2 full seasons, if you count 2020 and 2019, I believe he had something like 32 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. So similar to Ellaby last week, where he's a guy that's efficient and protects the ball.
He'll take the sack, yeah.
He'll take the sack. Now, I think Kev hit the nail in the coffin with his whole, you need the linebackers and you need your line to be ready for him to run all the time. Because even against Bowling Green, which they're starting to earn my respect, the Falcons, Crum only was 15 to 28 for, I believe, something like 134 yards. That is not good numbers.
No, he only – I don't know if you watched that game at all. I watched it back the other day, but he only had like 1 or 2 passes that were completed that traveled more than 10 yards in the air. So it was literally dip and dunk, anything down the field, couldn't complete. They got bailed out on the first drive on a phantom penalty call on a missed 4th down overthrow. Crum did not look good at all throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy who was higher on Crum than Ellaby coming into the season just because of what we've seen the past few seasons. But it has not been there at all. And it's not just from playing good defenses. The arm just does not look right.
So my view on that is, I'm not an X's and O's guy like both of you are, but if I'm the UB defense, I attack. I know the UB secondary is not a strength, but if he's gonna stop the run first, and if he beats you in the air, so be it. I don't trust him enough right now with his passing to really be a huge danger. Now, I could be wrong, and Kent could go off for 40 plus like they did against UB last year, and I'll eat my words, but if I'm UB in this game, I make them beat me through the air. They have a couple good weapons. They have Abram, and then they have God, the guy's name is escaping me right now. Cephas.
Cephas.
But I do think this is a game that's going to be close throughout. Kent can put up some points, but they haven't done it so far this year outside of VMI, which that's basically UB taking on Wagner. I really want to see how Crum does this Saturday.
There's a lot to look at.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things when you're diagnosing Crum too versus Ellaby not as tall as Dustin Crum. Ellaby really struggled when the Bulls got any pressure up the middle. Your defensive tackles pretty much just had to hold their position and put their hands up. He could not see over the middle of the field, and that's why he ended up scrambling as much as he did. You being on field level is so obvious to see, and if you realize that, all you do is put a spy on him and he goes nowhere all day long because he wasn't going to beat you through the air. I don't know what the hell they were doing there. But with Dustin Crum, he's going to be able to see that. He's going to be able to see those spots across the middle of the field. So if you're going to sell out completely, you have to really buy in all around. And I'd be a little bit worried. I think Capri Washington got banged up there at the end of the last game. So did Corey Gross, looked like a left shoulder injury. Looked like he might have dislocated it again. I know he's been having some nagging injuries from the beginning of the season. So that's not another good sign for the UB team heading into this one, Kev. The defensive line has done a good job getting after things. Are you going to be, if you're the defensive coordinator here, are you looking to attack things? Are you selling out for the run? Because I think that's their only chance of winning.
Yeah, you take off potentially their 2 best defensive backs for a bad unit, and you're in trouble. Straight up, I've seen some really poor play from Logic Hudgens and Marcus Fuqua. They've played poor. And I'm just being brutally honest that they've been poor in the defensive backfield. They've missed tackles. They've missed their spies. They have been really poor. They've missed reads. They've left their cornerbacks to dry. In Fuqua's case, Hudgens, I don't know how he's still on the field. I'm just going to be brutally honest there. However, with the injuries and the problems that they've had there, even more so, they're going to play big roles in this game. And what do you need to do? You need to get after it. They're going to play man coverage anyways. In times that I disagree, they're going to try to get after Crum. It just is going to be how they play. I don't think playing coverage is the move with a team that can't play coverage. They don't have the Buffalo Bills secondary. It's nothing. They can't drop and think they're going to play rush 3 or 4. Drop into zones, drop into coverages, even in man coverage. You're not going to lock down anybody. So you're going to need to get after it. They have a strong defensive line in Michelle, obviously in Riggins. They just need to create pressure, create havoc. and try to limit his lanes. And they need to do a more of a stretch defensive and contain, maybe at times, maybe come deep and wide into Crum so he can't escape the pocket, and then bring the pressure up the middle with blitzing linebackers. That's the game plan here. The defensive cornerbacks are still on an island. They're not going to make any more or less plays this way. And I think that needs to be the style. Hopefully Corey Gross or Pre Washington can play. They're better defensive backs in this game. So that would be a stringer. That would be a real challenge for the team. So if they don't have them, even more reasons to bring pressure at him. Don't think he can beat you deep hopefully by the time he's dropping 3-5 steps, you're at least there and he needs to make a read. So that's the way to play this defensively and continue to play as strong as you have in the run game for the majority of the season. Let's let him make big plays. And if he does, I didn't think there was much of a chance that if he's making those big plays, it might be a long day anyway. So let's try to get after him and play better in the fourth quarter, both from the defensive passing stop and as well as the offense. But defensively, they need to stop the pass when teams are passing and they're passing. They struggle in those situations. Why? Because they don't have good DBs.
Yep, absolutely. And Kev, that brings us to the perfect point here. Let's get in here for our predictions. We'll bring up here on the screen all of our predictions here. Kent State -5.5, -6. Line's been hovering around there. The over under 64, 65. Degenerate Al not here. He's got Kent 33-24. Rob Ryan, Kent 35-31. Both those guys going with the Al not over. Rob with the over. And then Maniac actually taking UB 28-23. Mike, you were the only one out of the three of us to take UB. Talk us into it. Why the hell you got the Bulls winning this one?
I don't have a lot of good points, so I don't think I'll be able to talk you into it. I basically flipped a coin and it went head, so that's how we got to Buffalo. But I think this is a winnable game. I don't think Kent has shown anything this year or over the course of the last couple of years with Dusty and Crum to show that they deserve the respect of being preseason MAC East Division favorite. They have a scary offense in theory, but I have not seen that scary offense the entire season. Their defense is good in theory, but like we said, they've had a tough schedule where they really haven't been able to show that off. Outside of a decent performance against Iowa defensively, holding them to around only 420 yards. The one good thing they bring is their secondary has 10 interceptions, so they make a lot of big plays, but they've also been beat for around 260 passing yards per game. If Buffalo can open things up a little bit with Van Treese, start targeting Keon Williams a little bit more, and try to get some balance, I think this is a game that's going to be tight right down to the finish. And I think I'm just going to give Buffalo a little bit of a boost because I picked them to win 8 games in the preseason, and I know deep down that if they lose this game, my prediction is toast. So a little bit of home cooking here, but me and Kev have a score to battle, and this is going to be the first time all year that we disagree with this pick. So we'll see which one of us is the smarter person going into the second half of the season. So,
yeah, and that it makes me very worried because you look at Kent State's head coach Sean Lewis, what he was saying to the media this week. Beginning of the quote, here we go. The key to victory is we gotta stop the run. We all know what it is. It's a personal vendetta. We've been talking about it for a long time. We got to stop the run. We got to run the ball. We got to be disciplined. We got to score touchdowns. Field goals aren't going to win it. Sean Lewis and Kent State know what they have to do. They have a very, very bad loss to come avenge here this week. UB put up 70 points last year. 8 rushing touchdowns from Jared Patterson, 409 rushing yards. Kevin Marks ran for another 99 and 2 touchdowns. They gave up 10 rushing touchdowns to UB. You don't think they're going to come out here and literally go balls to the walls to stop this run? Yeah, absolutely they are. And that's why I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than most people predict. Everyone sees that 70-41 last year. Everyone's hammering that over. We had a bit of a high over under last week in the 60s. Easy under in that one. UB plays defensive football. Kev, it's going to be a defensive game, I think, and Kent's going to get this one because their rushing game is better than UB's this year.
They're going to have 52 points, and that's the most I can see coming out of this game, and that gives me some buffer if some goof happens. So 65. There's no way that's going over, guys. There's neither of these teams are playing over like that. I don't know if they're just going off of like past history, but that's a terrible over under for this. That's free money football with under a 65 in the UB Kent game to me. I have them covering. I don't think Kent's good enough to cover past that 7 point, like 6.5, 5.5 line. Basically me and Mike have kind of a flip flop score there. With it being very similar in the range. It's that fourth quarter that is just not been there. 58 points UB is allowed in the fourth quarter. That's way too much. That's 12, roughly 11 and a half to 12 points a game. That's way too much. No one can overcome that. Like, no, I mean, you rail that average against even Patrick Mahomes. That's too much, guys. You can't have that many points in the fourth quarter. You're just not going to get it done when you're given double-digit points like that. And that's what I think happens in this game. Probably similar to the WMU game, maybe hovering around that 17-point line into the third, 17 into the third quarter. And then you're going to see basically the more veteran team and more veteran player. They have a loss to avenge. They're at home. UB really faltered on the road in both games in the second half, guys. It wasn't just in Nebraska. It was also at ODU. Didn't play good there on the road. I unfortunately have this being a make 5-0 pick in the Bulls. Mike is too. So someone's going to 6-0 here, guys. Someone is going to 6-0 pick in the Bulls.
I like your odds better than mine.
poor Maniac, I think, is looking at 2-4 or something right in the face. But you just get into the 6-0 mark. I feel pretty comfortable with my picks here. And that's just, it's just being realistic. I would want nothing more than Mike to be the 6-0 guy because, then there's something to look forward to. But if losing to WMU, losing to Kent, staring at 6-6 in the face on the season after this is all said and done, and probably early on between the West loss and the Kent loss, which should be the MAC East title, it's not going to look good to be able to without a Kent falter at some point. It's not going to be looking good after they have probably the second best win against Bowling Green. So
this is must win. This is must win.
Yeah.
There's no other team in this division.
Bowling Green was the question mark, and they didn't get it done. They were close. They played good. But if they beat UB and Bowling Green, I don't see a way they don't take the East. It could be over right here for UB without a W. And then you have the WMU loss on top of it. It could factor in if they're both tied. So I don't.
You can beat Kent and then lose to like a Miami, Ohio, or lose to Northern Illinois, but you can't lose to Kent because Kent's not going to lose more than one 2 games in MAC play. So you need one of their losses to be against you. So
they're not going to lose more than one MAC East team. So at most,
it's weird to say, but week 2 of the MAC season must win.
Can't go into.
No, you can't at all because tiebreakers, everything else. I don't even want to start thinking about MAC tiebreakers right now, Kev. Just win the game, win the day, and make sure if you guys are watching on YouTube, you're hitting like and subscribe. Type that little bell for notifications every time we go live. If you're on Twitter, make sure you retweet and hit like. It means a lot if you guys share this because then we get more and more Bulls fans and we can continue to pack UB Stadium and have a ton of fun together. Have some great tailgates at the special events lot. Hopefully Miss Sari will be there for that UB Ohio game. I know I'll be there making fun of Bunt.
Death to the noon games, guys. Let's get a 3 o'clock game. Let's get a 7 o'clock game at home.
Yeah, hopefully they keep winning so we get some more primetime games. I hate getting up early and going there.
Every road game's at 7 almost. Even ODU, even every road game. So I'd like to see UB be able to play one. I will be there at any game that's on at noon. So hopefully, I think right now it's just the NIU game. But, it's going to be fun one. Hopefully it matters.
Anybody going to Kent, say hello. I'll be there.
Wow. Oh, that's right. Mike is going to Kent.
Yeah, hopefully you have a great trip there on that one. Mike will be there cheering on the Bulls for us. Hopefully the Bulls get a big
win. Are you staying overnight, Mike?
No, I'm doing the drive there and back all the same day. Got my 2 fast food joints already picked out in Kent. So
what are they? Let's hear them. Sheets?
Whenever you're in the Akron, Kent area, you have to go to Swenson's. That is a burger, milkshake, old school type place.
Yeah, number 2.
And then my other favorite place, Raising Cane's, best chicken fingers, and their cane sauce is it's unbelievable.
If I was seeing you soon, Mike, I'd have you bring me some cane sauce. That sounds. Are you going alone? You making the trek alone?
Going with my wife, converting her to be a UB fan, even though she went to Ball State. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Wow.
Good luck with that one.
Do you have like a UB section? Is there how does that work?
No, I I decided let's just go closest to the 50-yard line as possible, and let's just be a parasite in the Kent State fans.
What are they charging for 50-yard line Kent State tickets?
So they had some cheap tickets that were like $15. Where I'm sitting is $26 a ticket. So that's the rest of the
Pretty
MAC.
penny there.
It's not just UB; it's the whole MAC. They're
Wow.
charging those tickets
Premium.
are
That's a raising
Premium
Cane's right there
prices.
alone. My God.
I'm going to be. I don't even know if I'll be able to afford the milkshake after the game, but
Oh.
we'll see.
Hopefully the Bulls win and Mike has a bunch of money on them to pay for a few extra milkshakes after the game.
6-0.
Yeah, he's got to start making some money.
They're 6-0.
You guys got to start
Watch
tailing
the
Mike
Bull
Bunt for the
Boys,
free money.
Yeah, free money, 6-0. If Mike and I have a big battle for who goes 6-0, picking half of the bowl schedule already. It's a big battle.
Absolutely. So again, shout out to everyone for tuning in to Bullet Points. This is our Week 6 Kent State preview. We'll be back again. I don't think we'll be doing post game tomorrow just because it's a late game and we have so much other stuff going on with the fight night over at Amherst Ale House for Fury Wilder 3. If you guys are looking for something to do, we'll be over there at Amherst Ale House. We'll also be checking out Nickel City Wrestling with Megabyte Ronnie over there on Grand Street at Polish Cadets. That's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to have a ton of content and a ton of coverage for you guys all day long, plus the big Chippewa Chiefs versus Bills watch party. The Wrecking Crew will all be there at Rec Room. Going to be an absolute amazing time. But first, we only got 3 words left. Let's go Bulls.